Alright, so this time I'm gonna do a video game review and I'm gonna talk about Mass Effect, the original trilogy. Now, Mass Effect, the original trilogy. The crazy thing is, I've never actually played the first game, and I've only played the second game once, and I've only played the third game once. But I did watch someone else, Tetra Ninja. I watched him play the entire trilogy, and I also did a bunch of reading. Hung out on the subreddits, followed Mass Effect people on Tumblr, and I just kind of got invested in the fandom and in the story, and it remains one of my favorite video game assets. Video game, just I don't even think about it as a video game, right? It's a universe that I like, and I want to talk about it, and I want to talk about what I like about it, and I will make a separate video about the sequel, Mass Effect Andromeda, which is set in the same universe, but I felt was unfortunately disappointing and could have been a lot better. But so that's for the next video. Let's talk about Mass Effect, and I will be talking about spoilers. And it's a pretty old game, and this is going to be more of a story analysis, I guess. And if you haven't played the games and you're considering playing the games, I would recommend playing it first if you can. But realistically, I bet there are going to be a bunch of people who haven't played the games but will be happy to hear about it. And so here we are. So here, let me just kind of try and recite the story from memory, right? You play as Commander Shepard, who can be male or female, and Commander Shepard is a commander in the Alliance Navy, Alliance Space Fleet, right? So this game is set in the future. It's set in I think 2184, something like that. And what has happened is that humanity has gone into space and it's discovered something called a mass relay. And a mass relay is basically kind of a transport network, faster than light travel thingy within the galaxy. So it's like, imagine, I think it's like orbiting Pluto or something like that. And when you go to that mass relay, you can kind of fast travel to other mass relays in the galaxy. And so it turns out that humanity is not alone in the galaxy. There are multiple other sentient life, civilizations, races, species in the galaxy. So there are the Turians, there are the Quarians, there are the Krogan, the Asari, and a couple of other lesser species, the Hana and a couple of others, Elcor, but that's not so important. Anyway, it's in the first game. I don't even really remember the specifics of the first game, but it's so Shepard's kind of going on a routine-ish mission to investigate something. I think it's on Eden Prime, maybe. I don't remember the specifics. But you go to investigate something, turns out there's some bad shit going on, right? There's and so it's about humanity's relationship with the other galactic species, civilizations, right? And there's this central galactic kind of a government-ish, or just a UN of the galaxy called it's called the Citadel, or the place that they're in is called the Citadel. And the Citadel has a council which has it has a Turian member, a Asari member, and the last one is the lizard people. Are they lizards? It's the one that the Salarian people. So the council is made up of a Turian, Salarian, and what did I just say? Asari, right? The Asaris are the more, they're all women. It's a feminine. They're matriarchs, and it's a very wise and advanced species. The Krogan are a bit more militaristic, but kind of human-ish. Did I say the Krogan? The Turians. The Turians are slightly more engineering, military kind of. Slightly more militaristic culture, I think. The Krogan aren't a part of the Citadel, but they are even more they're kind of violent, or they're portrayed as violent, and there's a bunch of lore about what happened before humanity joined the council. And I guess part of the plot is that humanity is trying to get a seat on the council, and you end up getting to inform that decision, I believe, if I remember correctly. Like, you get to choose which human ends up being on the seat of the Galactic Council, and you get made a Spectre. A Spectre is a kind of like a James Bond-ish figure where you get to operate outside the jurisdiction of the law or whatever to go and do special missions and stuff. And your special mission is to investigate some other... So you find out about the Reapers, and the Reapers are like the villains of the game, or like the external threat, right? Apparently, the Reapers... And so this is kind of the major plot point of the first game, which is kind of like when you first find out, it's like pretty epic. You initially think that there's like a enemy ship, right, called Sovereign, I think, and it's like, I don't remember the specifics again, but like you come around to realizing that there is this alien threat, right, called the Reapers, who claim to be like this vast super intelligence, and like, you know, are like they do the whole "we are beyond your comprehension, you know, you mere mortals, we are forever and we are eternal," right? And apparently what they do every 50,000 years or something like that is they come into the galaxy, and they probably do this with other galaxies as well, I'm not sure. They come from deep space into the galaxy, and they harvest all sentient life, right? And it's not clear why exactly they do that, but apparently they do. And Shepard finds out about this and is trying to warn the Milky Way people, right? Humans, Turians, Asari, like, hey, there's this threat going on, like, stop your internal politicking and shit, and like, let's rally together to prepare for this incoming threat. Which kind of, you know, I would say it has a bit of a climate change aspect to it, like there's this pending alien invasion concept. I guess you could say it also has some similarities to, I don't know, how maybe like one country's internal politics versus some foreign threat. I don't know, but like the interesting thing about the game is that you get to make decisions throughout, and you get to... I'm not so sure about the decisions in Mass Effect 1, but like broadly, you know, you have like Paragon decisions and Renegade decisions, which is like you get to choose whether you want to be more kind of a law-abiding and good guy, kind of you know, try to do everything by the book and follow, you know, the law and whatnot. And then you have the Renegade options, which are more, you know, you're still a good guy, but you're, or girl, right, gal, but you take more liberties with achieving your outcomes. You're willing to kind of crack a few skulls and I mean, even the good guys get into firefights and stuff, but like the Renegade choices are more kind of Machiavellian, maybe. I don't know how you would frame it. They're just more willing to do bad shit towards good ends. I didn't play the first game, but I did witness the playthrough of it, and I thought it was pretty compelling. You know, you acquire squad mates. You acquire a Turian squad mate, a Krogan squad mate, and a Asari squad mate. You have 2 human squad mates, and there's a difficult decision where you can only save one of the 2, and so that's a decision you have to make. And there's a bunch of other challenging decisions you have to make, like whether or not you allow a certain alien species to live, right? Like whether or not you decide that they are a threat, not the Reapers, but like another threat. And there are a couple of other difficult decisions like that I don't specifically remember. And then you kind of end Mass Effect 1 kind of neutralizing a particular threat that was, I believe, okay, so the villain in Mass Effect 1, his name is Saren. He's a Turian Spectre, so he's kind of like you. And if I understand correctly, if I'm remembering correctly, he's kind of like trying to strike a deal with the Reapers. He's been convinced that resistance will be futile, and so you should cooperate with them, and that's the best way to achieve whatever the best possible outcome. And I believe like you can, the cool thing is you can fight him, or you can even convince him to kill himself, if I remember, like, which is an interesting outcome. Like you bypass the final boss fight in a sense. But I'm going to talk more about the other 2 games because those are the games that I actually played. The first game that I played was Mass Effect 2. And I had previously played Dragon Age Origins, which is a fantasy game, kind of similar themes in some respects. They're both by BioWare, or what BioWare used to be, and they have this sense of, okay, you're a hero, you have to make decisions, the world's in chaos in some way, you have to try and solve problems, you have to recruit allies, and you have to go through challenges, right? And you face those challenges, blah blah blah. In Mass Effect 2, what happens at the very beginning of Mass Effect 2, your spaceship, the Normandy, gets destroyed, and like some of your crew dies, and you die. That's like Commander Shepard gets spaced. They kind of like get lost in space and presumably die. But there's this guy, the Elusive Man, who's voiced by Martin Sheen, the guy who plays President Bartlett in The West Wing. And the Elusive Man is an interesting character. He's kind of like he's like, I guess, like a multi-billionaire or a trillionaire in the future. And he is devoted to using his resources he's like a human supremacist in a sense, which is like a concept we don't really need to even think about right now, because we are, as far as we know, the only life in the known galaxy. But so, when you know that there are other species, like there's the sense of, do you want to cooperate with them, or do you want to kind of resist them? And one of the major final decisions in Mass Effect 1 is, do you rescue the Citadel Council, which involves sacrificing some human, like, so you get there's like a difficult, like two bad things happening at the same time, and you can only rescue one group is like the human civilian ships, and another group is like the council. So do you want to save the council, or do you want to save the human ships? And like choosing to save the council means like sacrificing some humans, quite a lot of humans, I think, and like leave, like, it's demonstrating your commitment to galactic cohesion and cooperation and whatnot. Or you save the humans, and the people from the first council die, and they get replaced by the next council, which it's just kind of, I'm not sure what the repercussions of that decision is, but it's kind of how you get to express your values in a sense, right? And in Mass Effect 2, you die, you get revived by the Elusive Man, who in this thing called Lazarus Project, which is like coming back from the dead. And the Elusive Man rebuilds your ship. You get the Normandy 2, and he tasks you with solving a problem. And the problem is there are these creatures now called the Collectors, which you will find out are the agents of the Reapers from the first game, right? So the Reapers are using the Collectors as a kind of like a colonized, more than colonized. They have assimilated them in some way. So they used to be a race from the previous cycle called what are they called? Javik is one of them, and the Asari respect them. The Proteans, right? So there was a race 50,000 years ago called the Proteans. They were very advanced. The Asaris looked up to them, and they vanished mysteriously, leaving behind some artifacts and some history and whatever. And so one of your squad mates, Liara Tassoni, she is like a historian / a person who like studies Protean history. And she's kind of like, oh, the Proteans must have been so great, they must have been so the pinnacle of civilization. It's kind of romanticized past, right? And in Mass Effect 3, I believe you actually get to meet a Protean. It's like a DLC character, which is actually very bad, because a lot of very important story points come from that DLC character, which you have to pay extra money for. That's not good, but I can kind of forgive that, I guess, now that it's all over. Yeah, so there are the Proteans. Anyway, I was talking about, so the Proteans became collectors, right, who are like the agents of the Reapers, and this is like a harrowing thing to find out. And so these collectors are going around abducting humans from human colonies in other planets, and they are turning them into husks, which they like extract something from them, and they turn them into zombies basically, right? And the Elusive Man, your mysterious benefactor, wants you to investigate. And when you investigate, he wants you, the final decision at the end is that he wants you to save the collector base, and so that it can be studied and and kind of repurposed in some way in the fight against the Reapers. And the decision you get to make is you either get to save the collector base, or you get to be like, no, fuck it. There's too much. It's like a Holocaust scene, right? It's like a horrible place and like cursed in a sense, right? You get to destroy it if you want. It's your choice whether you want to do what the Elusive Man says or not, right? And the Elusive Man had the option of like implanting some kind of control on you, but he didn't, because he felt that humanity needs a leader, and the leader is Commander Shepard, and he or she should be recreated as they were, not in some other way. And you have squad mates again. You have a couple of new squad mates that are given to you. One of them is Miranda. Miranda is interesting. She's like a genetically modified, like superhuman in a sense, and she was originally the Elusive Man's organization is called Cerberus. I think you do fight some Cerberus people in Mass Effect 1, but I don't remember because I didn't play it. And in Mass Effect 2, like Miranda was a Cerberus kind of a member. Like she's a high-ranking-ish Cerberus member. And you have to put together a crew again. And there are a couple of new people that you put together. And you run into Garrus Vakarian, who's a Turian from the first game. Tali Zora, she's the Quarian from the first game. The interesting thing about Quarians is they're kind of so they have like immune systems that are compromised, and so they have to have like this. They have to wear masks all the time. They're like permanently on quarantine, I guess. And Quarians, right? And they created the Geth. The Geth are like robot species. They are synthetic life, and so there's that subplot of the Geth rebel against the Quarians, and there's this thing of, were the Quarians fair to the Geth? Were they good creators? And you get into the details of it, and there's like conflict and misunderstanding, and it's pretty sad, right? It's a bunch of conflict. And you get a Quarian, so you get Tali again, and you get a Geth teammate as well, Legion, right? What else? Every character in Mass Effect 2 has a loyalty mission, and I really enjoyed this, where, so you recruit them through whatever means, like you meet them, so one of them is Jack. Jack is this powerful biotic. Biotics are like this kind of magical skills that people have that they can use, like their brain power to, something Mass Effect feels something. They can like control matter and move stuff around and launch stuff and stuff like that. Biotics. And Jack was kind of like a Wolverine-ish character. Like she was raised in some kind of torturous environment, and you get to free her from that place, and then you get to recruit her. Who else? Garrus he's like a soldier-ish. He's from CSEC. CSEC is like Citadel Security. I think he's from Citadel Security. And who are the other characters? There's Grunt. So in the first game, you meet Rex. And in the second, who was the Krogan in the first game, who's your teammate. And I can't remember the specifics, but I'm sure there was like something that you do for Rex, something that you do for Garrus in the first game. But so in the second game, again, each of your teammates has some personal problem that they will come to you for help with. And you can choose whether or not you want to help them. And obviously, if you're playing the game, you kind of want to help them, right? Because they're your teammates. And it's more story, it's more character development, it's interesting. So like one of Tali's... So Tali, her mission is something like to defend her father's honor. Like her father was an Quarian engineer, and he was accused of, I don't know, treason or something because of something to do with the Geth. And you follow Tali on some mission that she has to try and prove her father's innocence. And you can kind of I think you find out that actually her dad wasn't exactly innocent, but he had his reasons for what he was doing, and it's understandable. But like it would confirm that he was dishonored in some way. And you get to help Tali. You get to make like some difficult decisions. You get to like help her cover it up in a sense, or you get to tell the truth about it in a way that makes Tali and her dad look bad. Or you get to use your Paragon points or your Renegade points to kind of tell everyone, you know what, fuck this shit. Like, Tali is a great Quarian who is helping the galaxy, and like you all should respect her and give her the freedom to do what needs to be done because she has a good heart and blah blah blah. So you get to play that role as a commander, and you get to kind of be a good leader in a sense, and it's a very great experience to have. I find I really relish that experience of being able to stand up for your teammate. Similarly, like with Jack's quest is slightly different. It's like she wants to get revenge at the person who kind of semi-imprisoned her or whatever, and you get to encourage her to either kill or not kill that person, and like it's your choice. It's up to you. It's you earn her loyalty either way, but like it's an interesting reflection of your values in a sense. And yeah, same, it goes on and on. Like Grunt is this kind of is a Krogan who's like who's born in a vat in a sense, right? And you help him with his initiation on Tuchanka, which is the Krogan homeworld, which I believe now in retrospect, when I played the games I didn't know about Dune, but I have since read the book, and like there's a lot of references to Dune in Tuchanka. I believe it's like a desert planet, there's like giant worms and everything. It's clearly a homage, right, the Dune. And yeah, you help all of these people, you interact with there's all these like small little exchanges as well. There's this annoying press person who harasses you on the Citadel in all three games, and she's like, she's misrepresenting what happened, or she's like a gossip journalist kind of. She's trying to make you look bad, and you can punch her in all three games, or you can try to explain yourself, and it's really up to you. So again, you probably want to play each game twice so you get to see both options. And they're like prompts. There's like a renegade prompt, like when she's talking and you see the red thing and you press it, you punch her. She's kind of, I don't know. And yeah, so in the second game, there's another guy, Thane. He's an assassin. You help him with his son, and it's just, as I'm talking, we're like 20 minutes in, and I'm just talking like about details that might not be very interesting to people who haven't played the games. But like, I was very moved by this game. I very quickly came to care about all of the characters. I very quickly got invested in the story. So like, when my friend suggested that having played Dragon Age, I should play Mass Effect, I'm like, I've never, at the time, this was like 2008, 9, I'm not sure, 2000, maybe earlier, maybe 2007, 8. I had not been a sci-fi fan at the time, like a space, there's all these space. So I hadn't read Dune. I hadn't read Ender's Game yet. I read Ender's Game in like 2015. I hadn't watched Star Wars. I hadn't watched Star Trek. I just didn't have any of that background. And apparently, I do want to watch Star Trek eventually, because Mass Effect is apparently like, clearly there are many references to Star Trek, and there's a lot of references and stuff that there are things that I associate with Mass Effect that are actually kind of callbacks to Star Trek, but I don't know what they are because I haven't watched Star Trek. But it's that same kind of thing, right? It's like, so in Star Trek you play as, there are all these captains, Captain Picard, Captain, I don't know all the other captains, but like, it's similarly your Commander Shepard. It's like you're the captain. You have to oversee your crew, and your crew will have conflict with each other. At some point Miranda and Jack have a conflict. At some point Tali and Legion have a conflict. I'm not sure if there's any other conflicts. There might be one or two more that I'm forgetting. But like, again, you get to side with one of them, or if you have sufficient Paragon or Renegade points, you get to make like a fuck you, get along if you're Renegade, and if you're Paragon, you're like, can't you see that we have to work together? Like, whichever the case it is, right? Like there are a range of possible options, and it's just this great, I think, decision-making simulator in a sense. And yeah, I think some criticisms will be, oh, you don't really get like a lot of choices. You have this kind of red color choice, blue color choice, or like one of the shittier plain choices. And very often, I guess, like, it might be interesting to do a third playthrough or even a fourth playthrough where you don't allow yourself to make either the Renegade or Paragon decisions, because like there's always like, so there's like maybe 2 or 3 choices that you get that are all kind of shitty in their own way. And then there's like a good choice or a good Renegade choice. And if you pick Paragon or Renegade, like, you're always gonna pick a good outcome. But you could also play the game and just pick whichever you think is the most correct amongst the white options. And I would be curious to do that if I had a chance to play it again, which I'm considering. I'll figure out. I don't think so. It's not available on PlayStation yet. I don't know if it ever will be. I would maybe consider getting a secondhand Xbox or something just to play it, or maybe I get a PC. I'm not sure. But yeah, decision making simulation. It presents a lot of interesting conflicts. So all of the questions around the Geth is about AI. Are they hostile? Can we trust them? When if they have their own motives and intentions. I think the Geth might have been like extra villainous in the first game. Like they were all just bad and they're all attacking you, if I remember correctly. Whereas in the second game, you find out that, again, I'm not super sure about that, but it's just you get to see both sides of the story. You get to see how the Quarians are legitimately worried for their safety and they don't trust the machines that they made. Whereas you see both of those things with the Krogans. So the Krogans' overarching story is that at some point they will supposedly. So the Krogans and the Solarians don't get along, right? So and the Solarians engineered something called a genophage, which is something like a you don't kill anybody, but you worsen their birth rates, you lower their fertility, like of a species on a planet, so that they don't reproduce as much and they can't kind of grow big and become a warring force, right? And there's the ethics of that. Like, do you feel that the Solarians were justified in doing a genophage? Is a genophage morally acceptable? If you, as a powerful outsider who can nudge things one way or the other, which way would you nudge it? Like, you get to make that decision. Particularly in Mass Effect 3, right? So at the end of Mass Effect 2, I believe no matter what happens, you kind of tell the elusive man to fuck off, I think. And because in Mass Effect 3, you end up back with the Alliance Navy on Earth, right? And you lose you're grounded, like you lose your ship privileges and whatnot. But then in Mass Effect 3, the Reapers come to Earth and they attack Earth. Like Mass Effect 3 opens with Earth under attack, and so you get reinstated to try and find a super weapon to get to fight the Reapers, right? And I would say Mass Effect 2 is my favorite game of the trilogy because the way they laid out the plot for the Collectors, the Collectors were genuinely spooky and creepy. At some point, they invade your ship. I think when you are not on the ship, they kidnap your crew, and your crew gets kidnapped and brought into the Collector base. So going to the Collector base becomes something that's personally consequential to you. And you've been talking to your crew members, your yeomen, you've been talking to your Dr. Chakwas, you've been talking to all those people, and you've been building relationships with them, and now they've been taken from you, right? And you have to rescue them. And whether or not you can rescue all of them depends on the gameplay. It depends on whether you've kind of accumulated the right resources and stuff like that. And yeah, like you have to, the climax of the game is so good. It's a suicide mission. It's called a suicide mission, and it's very, very, it's communicated to you very clearly, and it happens that crew members can die, like your teammates that you've spent so much time and energy investing in, that you've followed them on their loyalty missions and helped them out with their personal problems and earned their respect. Like, if you don't make the right decisions in the suicide mission, like your crew members can die. In fact, if you didn't do the loyalty missions and you didn't upgrade your ship and there's a bunch of decisions you made wrongly, you can lose your entire crew, which is pretty whack, and you can die as well, right? But on my first playthrough of Mass Effect, I made all the right decisions somehow, and I managed to not have anybody die, which was nail biting. I remember it was so tense and exciting and scary, and that was just great. And yeah, I just felt a lot of love for Shepard, for Shepard's crew, like just this idea of how do you bring together a bunch of people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different values, get them to work together towards a common goal, inspire them, challenge them, make them care about each other, make them care about you, and have them follow you into hell, right? Basically, like that's kind of the amazing thing about Commander Shepard, or the way she was written. Right? I played as a male Shepard the first time. I played as a female Shepard the second time for Mass Effect 3, and I just feel like the game's cooler with a female Shepard. It's cool if it's like a human woman saving the galaxy. Mass Effect 3, famously has a bad ending, right? And I remember being really torn up about it. So there was the original ending, and then there's like they introduced like a slightly extended ending with more details that I appreciate that they did. And that could, the original bad ending could go in my list of examples. I'm procrastinating on a video essay about how to handle. Well, the video is going to be called "Allow the Player to Kick the Enemy in the Dick," right? Because I think that is like almost non-negotiable in terms of, or like you have to face the enemy properly, and then you have to face the consequences, and you have to face the outcomes. And Mass Effect 3, the original ending was kind of like sudden, startling, abrupt, and then it like fast forwards to the future, and it just feels kind of hollow and shitty. And I had like a fucking existential crisis over it, I think, because there was this real sense of like whatever you do, nothing really matters in the end. Kind of like I had that feeling. Like I had trouble sleeping. I think the first night I played the game, when I finished the game, and like for days afterwards I agonized over it, and then eventually I wrote like a blog post for myself, kind of trying to make sense of the grief in a sense. And I a thing that I do, which isn't common, I think. I don't think a lot of people do this, and I think the response to The Last of Us 2 has especially shown how people are not like me, right? I try to work with the storyteller. I try to find meaning in the story that they try to tell me, and I felt like part of the message of so I try to steel man. Straw manning is when you make something out to be worse than it is. And steel manning is when you make something out to be better than it is. And I try to steel man the stories that I encounter. So it's almost like I'm writing a bit of fan fiction in my head that fits with the canon to make it better in some way. And so for me, my steel manning of the Mass Effect 3 original ending was, ultimately life is fleeting and ephemeral. Everything will return to dust. And so what really matters is not final outcomes, but the journey along the way. What matters is the decisions that we made, not even because of the outcomes, but because of who we were in the individual moments. I had a lot of feelings about that, and I had a lot of I had to work through my feelings about that. And I'm kind of grateful to the game for giving me that experience, even though looking back now, I can say that it could have been better. It could have been so much better in so many ways. I could have improved on it in a bunch of ways. And so should I talk about how to make Mass Effect 3 better? Let's not really... Have I covered everything about 1 and 2? I can't really go into much more details about 1, except maybe like super broad strokes. The way the game started out as you are some commander on a routine mission, and the way it expanded the universe, that was beautiful. They really did a good job of helping you see that there was this ancient race, and there are these great 50,000 year cycles that you're not aware of that happen. And like when you first encounter, there's like a beacon that you encounter that tells you stuff. I guess I'll find it and link it in the replies. And the beacon, the moment you encounter the beacon, it plays this very serene, ethereal music, and that was a great moment. There's a great moment where you first discover that Sovereign is a Reaper, and he confronts you and talks to you in this ominous voice, and that's epic. And in Mass Effect 2, the collector base is spooky. It really, and the suicide mission is really crazy, and all of the loyalty missions along the way are great. The story beats are great. The romance is kind of meh in Mass Effect 2, but it's part of the game, right? It's alright. And in Mass Effect 3, I never got around to playing the Citadel DLC on Mass Effect 3, but I appreciate that they threw it in. So the Citadel DLC is a kind of it's fan service basically, right? There's like there's like a couple of missions, I think, where there's like a clone of Shepard, Commander Shepard, a clone of you impersonating you. I mean, they are a clone of you, so they are also you in a sense, and you have to you have to fight them and stuff like that. And then there's a party, and like there's a party on your ship. There's like a dance that you go to. It's just all kind of frivolous socializing and stuff. But I really enjoy that. I enjoy that you spend all of this time kind of fighting with fighting alongside your crewmates, like saving each other's lives, going through difficulties. Like I personally believe that, if I write stories, I want the reader. So, a lot of storytelling is about conflict and managing the conflict, addressing the conflict, resolving the conflict, making decisions that are costly, dealing with consequences. It's all pain, right? Like, you can't really have a nice story that has no pain in it. But that doesn't mean that a story has to be like just pain and more pain and grit and suffering, right? Like, that's not life, right? Like, and stories are kind of like simulations for managing life in a sense. And life is cruel and painful, yes, but it's also funny. It's also nourishing and wholesome. And I feel that, so my personal belief is that if you're making media, you should include that shit in your stories, right? Even in The Last of Us, there's like a dance, Ellie's singing to Dina. Like, there are these moments of, even Abby going like on the Ferris wheel with Owen, right? There are these moments of warmth and connection and wholesomeness, and you need those lights in the darkness. If only, even if it's only because you're such a cynical motherfucker that you introduce the lights so that the darkness becomes that much more bleak. Because if it's dark all the way, you get acclimatized to it and you get desensitized to it, and after a while you don't care. So you kind of need those contrasts. And like, in Mass Effect 2, when the collectors are on your ship, that's a great moment. And they do this in Dragon Age as well, where, it's like you have this safe space that you assume is, no weapons are required. It's where nothing bad happens. It's only like casual interactions. And then they violate that space eventually, where, like bad shit is happening in your safe space. And that sense of violation is really, if it becomes a trope and they do it and everybody starts doing it in every single game, I think that might get a bit predictable and annoying. But even so, I think like it's a trope that I would probably use if I was making a game, because it can be done well, and it does unsettle the player in a good way, I would say, like story-wise, because it is something that you have to confront, right? Like the call can come from inside the house. It does happen in life, so it's something that I'd like to see addressed in fiction. Almost 40 minutes. What else is there to say about Mass Effect? I love the games, man. I love the characters. I love being Commander Shepard. When I used to live in my parents' house, I used to go running, like for fitness. And what I would do when I'm running like the final stretch, I would run around a kind of almost 2-3 kilometer circuit around the roads around my house. And when I'm like the final couple of 100 meters to my house, I would be tired already, and I would like sprint, and I would in my head imagine that I'm Commander Shepard and that I'm sprinting to like save someone. Like I'll be like, Shepard, you got this, you got to do this. It's for humanity, right? And then there are a couple of instances in the game where there's like these running sequences of some kind, and it was just very moving to me. The soundtrack is great. This sense of and I wrote a blog post once about Mass Effect 2 and loyalty missions, and just this idea of earning the loyalty of others is something that's very precious and important to me. Nobody owes me their loyalty, right? It's not something you can demand. It's not something you can coerce. It's something you can seek, and you have to seek it from a place of abundance. You have to seek it with saying, I can't make you like me and want to be my friend or want to, be my ally, but, I reach out my hand, and if you would like to be my ally, like, I would honor that in return, right? And I think this is a point that has been made in a lot of media, right? It's I feel like it's a theme in The Lord of the Rings with Gimli and Legolas saying, how about with a dying beside a friend, right? And it's a theme in Horizon Zero Dawn, which I'll talk about separately, Final Fantasy, the Avengers, right? Like Inside Out, like it's all about learning to trust each other, learning to be vulnerable and open with each other, looking out for each other, taking care of each other, right, as individuals, and kind of the theme of Mass Effect as a whole. And they really, I guess, so the ending of Mass Effect 3, I feel they should have just gone all out and delivered like they keep implying that the galaxy can't rally together against a common enemy because they're so conflicted, right? And I feel that in fiction, it is worth the cliche or the cheesiness to demonstrate everyone coming together to face the big bad. However cheesy it is. Like, I guess in Avengers Endgame, they kind of do that. They have everybody showing up, and people, like, yeah, it's a kind of cheesy mainstream movie, but it's one of the most popular movies of all time. And I have criticisms of it, I'm sure. Maybe I'll make a video about that. But I appreciate that in fiction, in extremely widely consumed fiction globally, there's a story that all of us can coordinate and come together and do something greater than ourselves for the greater good, for the common good, right? And that's a story that we really gonna need very soon, right? I mean, right now, during the coronavirus stuff, and climate change is coming, right? I'm assuming you believe that, like, but even if you don't, right? Like, it's like, and I don't want to talk about that, but I'm assuming that you assume that climate change is something that could potentially happen, and it's probably gonna happen. It's probably happening already. Whatever. The point is, big problems require coordinated solutions, and humanity up until now has not been great at coordinating at scale. And it makes sense because we are descended from like monkeys, or like we are great apes that operate in small groups of tribes and whatnot, and like the ability to coordinate at a large scale at a level of species is a challenge. And I in The West Wing, the TV show, there's a story where I think the American soldiers are in distress, American astronauts are in distress, and I believe the Russian astronauts choose to risk their lives to save the American astronauts. I fucking cry when it's fiction, right? It's not really happened, but I cry anyway because that's what we can imagine. We can imagine cooperating. We can imagine coming together. And the fact that somebody else imagined that and decided to make that the story that they wanted to share with the world makes me cry, man. It makes me proud to be human, knowing that there are fellow humans out there who I have never met who would want me to hear that and would want us to share that common story, right? And to me, that's what Mass Effect is about. And it's about coming together. And I'm gonna make multiple videos about coming together. And it's a theme I feel very strongly about. I feel that I have been saved by media about coming together. And it's not just the idea. It's not like reading about a bunch of fictional people coming together means that my life is better. But like, somebody wrote that. Somebody wanted to tell that story. Somebody spent time and energy. They spent some amount of their life telling that story to get the message to me. And the fact that they did it for me makes me want to do it for you and for whoever's watching this, right? I don't really know how to get much more real than that. Like, it's really, are we in a uncaring place where everything is about personal profit and personal benefit? I don't think so. And I don't think so. The reason I don't think so is because I have encountered stories and music and art and literature and people, people on YouTube who teach other people how to unclog toilets and how to cut fish and how to like massage pain out of your wrists or whatever. Just people helping people is a thing. It's a thing. And we could all do more of that. And that's what Mass Effect means to me. Done.